Alright guys, in today's video we have more PlayStation news and information to go over and discuss. We have quite a few topics to go over in this video today, so before we dive into it, do me a big favor, hit the like button to help the video out and show it your support. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. We're starting here though talking about a third-party AAA developer that is working on the title Riders Republic, talking about the PlayStation 5's power and what it is enabling them to do with their game. Now, Riders Republic is not a game I'm very excited about, but it is always interesting to hear specifically what AAA developers are saying about the new hardware. So this is reading from Games Radar, and it says a Riders Republic developer has talked up the technical capabilities of the PS5 and the effect the new console has on the upcoming game. We have both the 2D and the 3D map, but the map in 3D is actually not a map, it's actually the game. Riders Republic creative director explains this in the latest issue of Play magazine. You will see on the fly the map being populated by players, and it's honestly kind of a tech demo. You really feel it come alive, and you've got the feeling that there are thousands of players within the map. All of the quotes above from the creative director behind Riders Republic focus specifically on the PS5 version of the upcoming game from Ubisoft. Although the new racing game is releasing on both the PS4 and the PS5, it sounds like the development team is really going the extra mile with the latter. The new gen version is also teasing mass chaotic races with 64 players, a marked increase on the 50-player races that the game promised when it was first revealed last year. So even though Riders Republic is not a game I'm very excited about, it is always interesting, as I said, to hear what third-party AAA developers have to say about these next-gen consoles, and we have a developer here who's letting us know how they are leveraging and utilizing the extra power inside of the PS5 with their title specifically. So you can let me know down in the comments below if Riders Republic is a game you plan to pick up and play. But we're moving on from that topic and talking about another developer that is talking about both next-gen consoles, specifically the GPU and the difference between the GPU inside of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and how, according to this developer, the difference is not that significant. I feel as though this is worth talking about once again because we are still hearing developers talk about this and weighing in on it, and they all seem to continually come to the same conclusion, which we've talked about well before the PS5 launched, that being that there really is not that big of a difference, and because of that, we are not going to see a substantial difference between games. I feel that this was something a lot of people were maybe a little bit worried about, considering there is a difference on paper between the GPU inside of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, but it turns out it really isn't going to matter. So this was an interview that was conducted by Gaming Bolt with the CEO of The Parasite, and again, this developer is letting us know the difference between the GPU inside of both consoles. And it is worth noting that, speaking about the Xbox Series S in particular, this developer's opinion is that it is an ambivalent piece of hardware, which is interesting to say the least. But this is what this developer is quoted with saying: I think the difference between PS5 and Xbox Series X is not that significant. I'm pretty sure that every developer is happy that we have no recurrence of the situation from old gens, where we had a significant difference between PS4 and Xbox One, which in particular took its toll in recent years. We need to remember that if we are publishing the game on different platforms, we always need to consider the weakest hardware. And so there you go. We have a developer stating that there really is not a significant difference. And as I said, we will continue to cover this as we go further into this generation, because we were told that we would start to see some potentially significant differences in games and how they perform or how they look on both of these consoles, and there would be more disparity between them. But we are slowly but surely approaching the 1-year mark of these consoles being out, and as of right now, not only are we not seeing that significant of a difference, if any at all, but we are still hearing developers say the same thing. And so it's starting to look like there really will not be that big of a difference throughout the entire generation. And if we do end up seeing any differences, it will most likely come from the first-party developers underneath Sony or Microsoft. So let me know down in the comments below what you think about what this developer had to say. Moving to the next topic, we're talking about Insomniac Games and how the director of core technology, Mike Fitzgerald, has revealed that the studio has internally tested some Gen 4 SSDs that meet Sony's recommended specifications, and the results produced by them are, quote, almost indistinguishable, unquote, from the PlayStation 5's internal SSD. Insomniac has been testing the drives with the recently released Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and according to Fitzgerald, it's looking good. And so this is what he said in his string of tweets. Exciting to see PS5 beta testers getting access to the M.2 SSD feature. I'm sure the public beta will result in plenty of benchmarking across different games and drives, but I'll spoil with some of our results from early testing at Insomniac on Ratchet & Clank. It's looking good. The Gen 4 drives we tried that meet the recommended specs gave results almost indistinguishable from the internal SSD. The rest of the I/O path still in use, hardware crack and decompression, etc., is definitely pulling its weight in delivering the crazy loading moments in Rift Apart. Folks over at Insomniac Games also tested some Gen 4 drives that are below recommended specs, and while the results weren't too bad, the studio did experience up to 15% slower loading in some of the most stressed areas of Rift Apart. Fitzgerald asked fans to keep technical specs in mind when making a purchase. Speaking specifically about Rift Apart, he said that the game relies on high-quality storage. So I thought that this was actually really important and interesting to highlight, because we are getting some insight from a developer at Insomniac Games when it comes to these new SSDs, and many of you may know that Sony is planning to unlock the SSD slot inside of the PS5. Beta testers are already utilizing it, and so you might want to keep this in mind when you are planning to upgrade your storage with the PS5. But continuing to talk about the SSD and the PS5 expansion slot, we have another SSD manufacturer that's letting us know that their new line will be compatible with the PS5, and they are currently in a testing phase right now. So the Western Digital Black SN850 NVMe SSD with heatsink meets Sony's PS5 storage expansion requirements, and the drive is currently being tested. Yesterday, manufacturer Seagate confirmed that its upcoming FireCuda 530 PCIe Gen 4 NVMe SSD is among the first drive to be compatible with Sony's next-gen console. Alongside this exciting announcement, Sony released the first PS5 system beta update with support for M.2 storage expansion drives. Unfortunately, only those in the beta program in select countries will be able to try out the long-awaited storage expansion option before it becomes available to all PS4 owners. Fast forward one day, and now another manufacturer has confirmed its own storage expansion option for Sony's console, Western Digital. Following yesterday's beta news from Sony, we reached out to WD to ask about its SN850 NVMe SSD, and a spokesperson confirmed to us that this drive does indeed meet Sony's requirements. Based on Sony's published requirements, we can confirm our WD Black SN850 NVMe SSD with heatsink meets the stated requirements to expand console storage on the PlayStation 5 for those with access to the PlayStation 5 beta software. WD's NVMe SN850 SSD with heatsink is available in 500 gigabytes, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabytes, with the 500 gig version selling for $140 and the 1 terabyte selling for $250, and the 2 terabyte version is available for $430. So, as I highlighted in yesterday's video, if you are planning to upgrade your SSD expansion or storage, it's going to be pretty pricey. So you do want to keep that in mind, but it's good to see that more manufacturers are coming out and letting us know that yes, their SSDs do meet the requirements. So we're going to continue to get a white list from Sony and their partners, letting us know which ones will work inside of your PS5. Moving on to the next topic, we are talking more about some comments that Jim Ryan recently made in an interview, specifically talking about their recent acquisition of Nixxes. And he confirms essentially that this acquisition was done to help support PC ports of PlayStation titles, which is something that we already suspected, but now we are getting confirmation. So this is reading from Gaming Bolt. Sony has made it abundantly clear of late that bringing select games from its library of first-party PlayStation exclusives to PC is something it intends to keep doing. Following in the footsteps of Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone, it's been rumored that many more games are going to come to PC as well. Of course, when PC port specialist studio Nixxes Software was acquired by PlayStation earlier this month, that seemed pretty much like a given, and in a recent interview with Famitsu, PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan doubled down on that, suggesting that the team is going to be responsible for bringing PlayStation first-party exclusives to PC. We are also happy with our efforts to provide our IP to PCs, although it is still in its infancy, and we look forward to working with Nixxes to help with that, Ryan said. Nixxes Software has been porting popular games to PC for over 2 decades and has been responsible for bringing several notable games to the platform, including several Tomb Raider games, including the recent reboot trilogy, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, and more. So, yeah, I wanted to take a moment here to let everybody know about this because, again, we were speculating that this is why Sony acquired the studio, or the main reason why they acquired them, because of their expertise when it comes to porting games to PC, and we now have confirmation from Jim Ryan that that is the plan. So it does make you wonder, outside of PS4 games, because we already know that more and more PlayStation 4 titles are going to make their way to PC, which I think is totally fine. It does make you wonder, are they planning to start doing this at some point in time with PS5 titles? You have to imagine that at some point down the line, they're going to, but we don't know that for sure. But moving on to the next topic, we're talking about the PlayStation 4 9.00 firmware beta and how it is rolling out with support for PS5 trophies. So this is reading from Games Radar. A new PS4 firmware beta update is rolling out to test participants now with improved cross-gen trophy support and some new social options. As spotted by Push Square, the public beta for PS4 firmware version 9.00 began today, and an email to participants lays out the main changes arriving as part of the update. The biggest change in the PS4 9.00 firmware beta is the ability to view trophies earned in PS5 games on PS4. If you have a cross-generational setup at home, especially since an old PS4 can be great for streaming PS5 games into another room, this could be especially handy for trophy hunting. The other outline changes are mostly related to social features on PS4. If you're the owner of a group message, you'll now be able to delete individual messages, great for cleaning up off-topic or trollish comments. And if you block someone, you can choose to automatically leave only the message group containing you and them. Meanwhile, parental controls have been boosted with new notifications on PS4 and the PlayStation app for child accounts requesting certain game permissions. So there you go. I just wanted to be sure to let everybody know that there is a new firmware beta rolling out for the PS4, and if you're interested in that, now you know what is inside of it. We're now talking about some PlayStation titles that have received some release dates, starting with Solar Ash. It's been confirmed that Solar Ash will be releasing on October 26th, 2021, and it's going to release on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC. And we have a little bit of a description here for those who are not aware. Solar Ash is the second offering from Heart Machine, who previously worked on the excellent Hyperlight Drifter back in 2016. The game sees players traveling through the Ultra Void, which is described as a ravenous rift in space swallowing worlds. We're also talking about the upcoming PlayStation title Stray, which a lot of people seem very excited for. We did receive some new gameplay footage, which you can check out on the official PlayStation YouTube channel, and this game is going to be releasing on PS5, PS4, and PC in early 2022. In case you've been out of the loop, Stray is developed by Blue 12 Studio and takes the form of a puzzle-based action-adventure game where players are put in the paws of a stray cat living in a sprawling city, which is populated by robots. You'll roam through the decaying cyber city while interacting with the environmental playful ways, and being a cat, you'll have access to areas both high and low as you defend yourself against threats and team up with a flying drone named B12 who will aid you in your escape. So definitely a unique title here, and again, there seems to be a lot of people who are very much excited about it. I do think it looks pretty unique and something I may end up playing. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. But now we're moving on and talking more about Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. We have a lot of new information about this title and what we can expect from it. And we're starting here talking about the upgrade process and how Sucker Punch is making it known that this is not just a generic PS5 upgrade. So reading from PlayStation Universe, it says Jason Connell, Sucker Punch Productions creative and art director, has revealed that the PS5 features included in the upcoming Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut are more than just generic hardware upgrades, which is probably why we're looking at a price for the upgrade for existing users. Speaking with Press Start, Connell revealed that the features are tightly connected to the new Iki Island expansion. And this is what he had to say. The thing that I think is important for people to know is that those features that make it so specific to the PS5, we didn't just work on those as a generic hardware upgrade. They are fully enveloped into the Iki expansion and Jin's experiences on Iki. They were really tightly connected to one another, so that's kind of the reason why we didn't look at them as kind of separate. We really wanted those two to sing together, and that's the base reason why. So it's up to you to decide whether or not you agree with what Jason Connell is saying here, but he is trying to make it clear that this is, as he puts it, not a generic hardware upgrade. Moving on from that though, continuing to talk about Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, we have an idea of the size of this expansion, which I think is something a lot of people are really curious about. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut arrives next month with the all-new Iki Island expansion in tow, but just how much content can we expect from this DLC? Will it just be a quick snack or something more substantial? Well, in a new interview with Push Square, Sucker Punch promises something on par both in terms of area to explore and length with the original game's first act. If you're familiar with Ghost of Tsushima, Iki Island is the size of really the first act of the main game, Izuhara. It's a big, dense story with a lot of landscape and secrets to discover. The first act of Ghost of Tsushima is the game's longest, running a solid 10 to 20 hours, depending on whether you opt to clean up all of the side content. So yeah, Iki Island is a pretty substantial expansion, on par with other Sony semi-sequels like Uncharted Lost Legacy and Spider-Man Miles Morales. You can also expect a fairly daunting challenge from the DLC, as Iki Island has been designed for people who have already mastered the main game. The Iki Island expansion is available once the player gets into Act 2. However, we really wanted to also embrace our players who had faithfully played through all of Ghost of Tsushima and wanted to have this experience. So this Iki Island expansion will kind of jump up in difficulty from those players who have already really explored the breadth and width of Tsushima Island. So I think that this is some very important information about the Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut expansion. We are looking at 15 to 20 hours of content. We did hear from a playtester that that was how much content was available, but we didn't know for sure whether or not we should believe that because it's just a playtester or somebody claiming to be a playtester. But now we have official confirmation from Sucker Punch themselves that this is in fact how long this expansion is, and it does sound pretty massive, all things considered. In fact, I'd say that the price point for this, if it's really going to be as substantial as, say, Spider-Man Miles Morales, is really a good deal considering how much content is seemingly on offer. And they are letting us know that the difficulty is going to be ramped up significantly, which is also good because I feel like people have spent a lot of time playing Ghost of Tsushima and they have mastered every aspect of it, and so they don't want to just blow right through it and not experience any challenge. So some really good info there. But to finish up talking about Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, we have another interview that was conducted with Nate Fox, the director of the game, and GameSpark. And Nate Fox noted that the title Director's Cut was decided based on the fact that much of the content were additions to the base game, as well as the fact that it added several new features taking advantage of the PS5's new hardware and capabilities. Furthermore, he notes that the team took time and care to revamp the mounts in the game in order to make it more than just a mode of transportation by adding new ways to attack and charge at the enemy. On the topic of story progression in the Iki Island expansion, Fox stated that players will be able to enjoy the new expansion even after completing the main story. Players can access it anytime so long as they reach the end of the first chapter. To this, Fox mentions that the expansion features a unique storyline separate from the main quests, but will still keep track of where and who the players have visited. He adds that progression in the main game will also affect the expansion storyline in some way, but does not clarify how exactly this will will work. Given Jin's journey and growth through the main story of Ghost of Tsushima or in Ghost of Tsushima, it's interesting that the expansion will be at least somewhat impacted by that. He also revealed that Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut had been in full production since 2020, with all of Sucker Punch's staff working remotely. Fox says that in order to film the characters' movements and animations, the team also sent specialized motion capture equipment to actors' houses, which is something we heard them do for Guerrilla Games and the upcoming Horizon Forbidden West as well. So a lot of really great information about Director's Cut, and I have to say all of this information put together gets me even more excited to return to Ghost of Tsushima, and especially for this expansion. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Let me know down in the comments below whether or not you plan to pick up Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Moving on from that though, we're talking about a new AAA studio that was created by multiple developers from Sony and some of Sony's biggest studios. So this is reading from WCCF Tech. And it says AAA indie studios backed by big-name veteran creators have begun popping up with increasing frequency in recent years, and the creatively named That's No Moon may be one of the most promising yet. Founded by a laundry list of vets from Infinity Ward, Naughty Dog, Sony Santa Monica, Bungie, and EA, That's No Moon has secured a $100 million investment from Crossfire publisher Smilegate to make a third-person, story-driven action-adventure game. The studio's new game will be headed up by former Naughty Dog and Infinity Ward creative director Taylor Kurosaki and directed by The Last of Us lead designer Jacob Minkoff. Other names include Michael Mumbauer, who is part of PlayStation Visual Arts Group, Tina Kay, Sony Santa Monica and Giant Squid, Barry Genova from Bungie, George Allison from PlayStation, and Nick Kay from EA. The goal is to grow the studio staff to around 100 by next year. So I obviously abbreviated their last names if I felt as though I could not pronounce them, but this sounds like a pretty massive undertaking and a massive studio with some serious talent here. So this is one we might want to pay attention to because the type of game that they're going to be creating here is something that I think we will all want to play depending on how it turns out. But a story-driven action adventure, specifically third person, they're getting a AAA budget here. There's, again, talent from Sony Studios as well as others. So just wanted to take a moment to let you guys know that this is a thing that has happened. And so it's going to be quite some time. They're just getting off the ground. So it's going to be a while before we hear or see anything significant regarding this title, but I will keep you guys updated with that. But the final story we're talking about here has to do with the Last of Us HBO series and how it apparently costs $200 million a year and may last 8 seasons, which is pretty crazy to think about. So once again, reading from WCCF Tech, it says HBO's upcoming The Last of Us series is likely to be one of the biggest TV video game adaptations ever, but it seems HBO may be pinning even bigger hopes on the show than you might expect. New info about the planned scope of the show was recently leaked by a rather unlikely source, namely Alberta Premier Jason Kenney. The Last of Us series began filming in the Canadian province this summer, and during a speech touting Alberta's rebounding economy, Kenney let slip that HBO is spending $200 million per year on the project and plans to produce as many as 8 seasons. So, some pretty crazy numbers here and some crazy investment being done by HBO with this Last of Us series, and this is something that does get me excited because the more we're hearing about just how much money is being put into this thing and how much backing it's getting from HBO, they're apparently trying to get it to last 8 seasons. They want this thing to be extremely successful, and it seems that they're willing to do pretty much anything they have to make it happen. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention to any more information we hear about this because this is seemingly much bigger than I think any of us had expected. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did find it informative. Make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.